in the past, I might have been sweating the small stuff or hung up on something or just looking at the world through this lens that was somewhat superficial.
Mm.
And something really has shifted me, particularly in the last 4 or 5 months, Jack, where I'm like, oh no, I got time for that.
Gabrielle Bernstein, a role model for spiritual seekers.
Let me just take a moment before I even begin, because I just want to make sure that I completely center into the presence of who's in this room right now.
Hi, love. Me too.
And
I've missed you.
I've missed you, but what I said to you is I'm so happy to be back in your orbit.
Mhm.
And you said to me, you never left my orbit.
Never.
We have a deep bond because for many years I was living in the East Village.
Yeah.
And you created a spiritual home for me. And when I was first building
Yeah.
my own talks in New York, my bigger talks, right? So it's like getting out of the Hare Krishna Center, like into the stage and into the
yes.
theater.
Yeah.
I would come to your spiritual home, Middle Church.
Right.
And Middle became my home, a spiritual home for me to be able to do my work. And was it right before 2020 or right during 2020?
It was right before 2020. It
Yeah.
seems like a long, long time ago. Maybe
Yeah.
2018-ish, somewhere in there. You were
Well, but then there was the fire.
Then the fire was 2020.
That's right.
The fire was, we had all kinds of fires. The COVID pandemic came.
Yep.
So in March, Middle was one of the first churches to shut down. You know how diverse we are.
Yep.
So we had all kinds of older people, young people, immunocompromised people. We just were like, that's it.
Yeah.
And we started making a worship movie every Sunday. We would pull from our old clips and our old music and add some new stuff. And it was great. And then it was December and the neighbor had a fire, the second one in a year, in the same spot. And our big old beautiful building was just like an upside down ship, literally. So all that wood and just torched the sanctuary.
Now, what do you feel have been the miracles and the light that has come from that fire?
So many things. Do you remember this movie, Things Lost in the Fire? I think it was a Halle Berry movie. And
Yeah.
Of course, we lose things in the fire.
Yeah.
I've been saying the things we found in the fire.
Right.
First and foremost, we got love notes from Paris, from Beijing, China, from Bendigo, Australia. How, why, what? The story went all over the globe. And people were writing us saying, we're their Notre Dame, that we're their progressive Notre Dame. Just so much love we found in the fire. 700 people joined the church in a year and a half around the fire and the COVID. They found our worship movies.
That's right.
Our justice stuff and our good music.
Yep.
But I think we also found our resilience.
Yeah.
And we are tough cookies. It's been rough. The trauma of that fire, when you're working on rebuilding, and we are, you're in the fire again. Like you're in the fire when you walk by the site. You're in the fire again.
Yep.
But there's some kind of forged in the fire resilience that I think I've discovered in myself and in my people.
Yeah. Well, you have a really major statement that I wanted to actually begin this conversation with. I'm really just checking in with you about what it means to change the atmosphere with how light begets light, hope begets hope. But the darkness can give birth to the light.
Yes, you know, because of your own personal story and journey, oftentimes in a traumatized time, and let's admit we're in one.
Yep.
I don't know in my lifetime if there have been this many clusters of suffering and pain, right? In Congo, Sudan, Iraq, Israel, Gaza, Detroit, Tex-Mex, border, and Washington.
And a pandemic. Yeah.
And
Washington.
Pandemic, right?
And Washington, yeah.
So that we are traumatized people. I'm going to just stick with America for a minute. Watching the world through traumatized eyes, all of that, George Floyd, horrible Ahmaud Arbery, all of those deaths that showed us that we were kind of not on our best behavior. And I think two kinds of things happened. One was there was rage and anger, and that is happening now. Our social media is just a hot mess. The things people say that you would never say to somebody's face, the way we're responding to each other, and ugliness. But also, the other thing that happened is I think the dark times gave birth to a new kind of light.
Yep.
collective organizing. All those young people in the streets, all over the world in the streets, saying, justice for George Floyd, or
Yep.
getting involved in the Black Lives Matter movement, which then they had to say, it's not just Black people, it's like brown people, and it's immigrant people, and it's trans people, it's women. So there's been kind of a ripple of a call, I think, to justice and to love each other. If that's what I mean by darkness giving birth to light. Our friend Valerie Kaur would say, is this the darkness of the tomb or the darkness of the womb? As time has gone on, she says, yes, it's both. And that's what I think. It's horrible, the hardness. I don't believe in a deity that causes hardness so we can grow up. But the dark time has made us look at our neighbors and say, you know what? I'm not going to be okay if you're not okay.
Yeah.
Lots of people are understanding the Ubuntu philosophy. I am who I am because you are who you are. And I am, actually, you do complete me, and actually I am your keeper. So that kind of birthing, the kind of embryonic, I'm going to work with a birth metaphor, but
go for it.
that young hope, that emerging light, then that's giving hope to more light. So what happens, there's a success in a campaign. Oh, yay, people win the right to vote. Yes, we have dreamers doing a certain kind of work. Yes, the young people say, I can. Sí se puede. The light grows because it amplifies itself. The hope grows because someone says, actually, on my block, we all were able to organize a campaign to take care of our kiddos during COVID.
Right.
Actually, we were able to all get together in the Zoom and raise imagination, my friend Amanda would say. Actually, we were able to march anyway. Actually, we were able to use our social media platforms to make a difference.
Yes.
So that hope becomes hope, and that hope, and it's pulling more hope in, right?
And it's interesting because it comes back to what you said. The light that came from the fire. The light that came from the fire was this community's resilience.
Exactly.
And so we only can know our resilience when we're faced with what we have to touch into.
Absolutely.
And I think that we see, I think that as traumatizing and horrific as these years have been, and they continue to double down on the trauma.
Right.
It's not funny. It's not funny at all. But I think that with that, we've had this opportunity for awakening. And I felt that really personally, and I see it obviously with my community, and I'm sure you do too. But personally, I feel that there's moments when in the past, I might have been sweating the small stuff or hung up on something or just looking at the world through this lens that was somewhat superficial. And something really has shifted me, particularly in the last 4 or 5 months, Jack, where I'm like, oh no, I got time for that.
That's my favorite expression. Ain't nobody got time.
Ain't nobody
We don't got time for that.
And then there's also this feeling of like even today I was saying something about someone to my makeup artist, and I was just like, oh, that woman wasn't very nice to me when I was asking for help. Or I was just like bitching. And then I was like, I'm just gonna send her some love right now. I do not have the capacity to hold drama, negativity, violent thoughts.
Right.
Because I got work to do. And it's not just you and me. Right? It's not just the preacher here in the room or the motivational speaker and author. It's not us. It's not because we've chosen this path. It's every one of us. And so can you speak to how you would engage your community and this community in our responsibility individually to be resilient and then to show up with that resilience?
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Ken. I want to say something, though, about your laughter. We both laughed an awkward laugh. But I do think that this hard time has also birthed humor. I think you know what I mean, but there's a way in which the ridiculousness of some of the stuff is just, you have to laugh or you'll cry. So I think humor's in our kit for how we make it through, how we be resilient.
Yes.
I think I want to say this in answer to your question, though. Everybody, every soul is on the planet to make the planet better. Everybody, every soul is on the planet to create community of love and care and flourishing and togetherness and belonging. That, we all want it.
I agree.
We all want it, and we know we need it. And there's a way in which maybe when we're not in an emergency, Gabby, it's like Gabby will do that, and Jacqui will do that, and Valerie will do that, and William Barber will do that, and we'll watch and we'll say, that's awesome. But we're in an emergency. And I think in an emergency, people know, like when Sandy came,
Yeah.
in Katrina, everybody bailed each other out, right? We were here in New York when Sandy happened.
Yes, we
right?
were. We were flooded.
We were flooded and
Yep.
couldn't use our bathrooms on
Yep.
where you
Nope,
lived.
not for a
Nothing
while.
worked. But the bodega got out the
Yep.
water and put out the electric, and you could charge your stuff, and everybody took care of each other. And here's a sandwich with young adults climbing up into the high rises in Alphabet City, taking food to old folks. I mean, in an emergency, everybody knows all
9/11.
hands on deck. Absolutely.
I mean,
right.
it's making me cry, but I think about those times
Right.
when New York comes together. I mean,
Right.
it's America, but like in a city that's so compact, you can
Mm-hmm.
just like feel the just all separation melts in those
Absolutely.
moments.
We are New York beautiful.
We really are.
And I think in pockets all around the globe, we can see that happening. And if we look at it and celebrate it, like it's called appreciative inquiry, right? If you say, look, I see right there in that neighborhood, people doing beautiful things together, a block party, an event to celebrate the life of a child that died. All of those things are the way we teach each other how to be fully human. To be fully human, and from my faith tradition, I would say with a spark of divine, is to know your superpowers.
Yeah.
And the superpower we have most is love.
To be superhuman,
Mm-hmm.
the superpower we have most is love.
Love.
And the spark of divine. Now I just want to
Yeah.
come back to the
Yeah.
spark of divine means that yes, we're human. Just let me feed this back how I would interpret it
Sure.
and just get that meatiness from you, because we're having this human experience, but we have God.
Absolutely.
God is in us.
Inside us.
God is in each of us individually and uniquely and collectively.
Absolutely.
Is that how
that's right.
you would perceive
Absolutely, that's right.
Yes.
And I'm a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and I put my fingers up on purpose
Yes.
because I would say I follow Jesus.
Yes.
Christian has sometimes become kind of really problematic to
Yeah.
claim.
Yeah.
But our church, is universalist.
Yes.
Everybody's welcome.
Yeah. I'm a Jew
But
who follows
I
Jesus.
know.
We're talking about Jesus and a mission of love.
Rabbi Jesus was the most loving dude on the
Rabbi
planet.
Jesus.
Rabbi Jesus. And don't forget that, everybody.
Right, exactly.
How outrageous is it that the church has sometimes been anti-Semitic in the name of Jesus?
Right.
Here's the Jew, you're
Right.
being anti-Semitic.
Right.
Crazy town. I think the miracle that happens when Rabbi Jesus is on the earth, whether we think he's son of God or child of God or immaculately conceived and all that kind of stuff, this is a God-human partnership. It is absolutely a divine human partnership. This rabbi calls God his Abwoon. Now let me say that again, Abwoon. The Hebrew word for father is Abba. And most of us learned that Jesus would have been calling like Abba, praying, my father, Abba. But actually the Aramaic word is Abwoon, A-B-W-O-O-N. Abba plus woon, which is womb.
Mm-hmm.
This is a parent.
Yep.
This rabbi relates to the deity, to the holy, as with parental love,
Right.
with the reverence and the awe and the need and the joy and the hope and the disappointment that one has with your parents.
That's right.
This is a human divine partnership. When the parental figure is divine and you are human, and together you're moving across the earth, feeding people, making sure they have clothes, having a healthcare program that predates Obamacare and you don't need a card for. Like, we're going to get healed, we're going to get well, we're going to get okay together.
Right.
And I think that's what the partnership with the divine is about: taking care of the planet, taking care of the people, taking care of our posse, loving ourselves.
And we have to start that partnership with the divine. We always have it. It's like I've been trained recently in the last 2 years in internal family systems therapy, and so when we talk about the divine, I'll call it self. Right? We have that God nature, that love nature is in us. It is who we
Absolutely.
are. And just as A Course in Miracles would say, we don't need to teach you the meaning of love. We just need to release the blocks to the presence of love within you.
I love that so
and
much.
that truth is the whole thing. We've all got it. We've had these collective traumas. The pretenses that we've built against love have been dismantled, because sometimes in those breakdowns and those shakedowns, love can be revealed.
Absolutely. That's
But
right.
it's not that we have to go get it. It's in us.
It's in us.
It's in us. And so listening to this podcast right now, someone is activating that love presence within themselves. They're releasing and dismantling those blocks against it. And so I feel this like really holy call for every human to be, in their own way, waking up to what is that God presence within them, and how would they be bringing it forth.
And how the world would be different, Gabby, if that were true.
Oh, honey,
Right?
I mean, we would
If
be in
that
a
were
whole
true,
other
I mean, we might be out of work. I don't know. But we in
we
another
would be
place.
happily out of work,
Happily out of work.
and you and I would just be
Having
on a
some
beach
tea someplace.
somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
maybe a margarita. I don't know.
Yeah.
But truly, this amazing definition of love that I found when I was in seminary, my professor, Jim Loader, love is the non-possessive delight in the unique particularity of the other.
Yep.
The non-possessive delight in the unique particularity of the other.
Beautiful.
Right? And when Rabbi Jesus is saying, love God, love neighbor, love self, love God, love your neighbor as you love yourself, that teaching is you actually aren't going to love anybody till you love yourself. So I would say love is the non-critical, fully accepting delight in the other that I sometimes think is me.
That's right.
Right? I'm shooting on myself. I'm ashamed of myself. I didn't, I couldn't, I wouldn't. The parts of us that society says doesn't count, isn't beautiful, isn't glorious, that goes so deep inside developing children, and they don't love themselves. If we could talk about breaking down barriers, break down the parenting
Yep.
that causes children to doubt their beauty.
Yep.
Who am I to say I'm not beautiful? Our friend Marianne. To teach young parents the most important gift to give your child is for them to look in your eyes as their mirror and be like, you are all the things, my love. You can do anything you want. You can be anything you want. And the child interjects that mirror, that gaze, and goes, yeah, I am not perfect, but I'm awesome.
Yes.
That is a revolutionary kind of self-love, not aggrandizement, not narcissism, but just, I see this and I can delight in it.
Yes.
And then if I can delight in the strangest, most difficult parts of myself, that's rehearsal for delighting in my neighbor.
Well, you just nailed it, because so we've got this beautiful conversation about how we all have that God within us, and we all have that presence of compassion and connection,
Yes.
and that grandness within us of
Yes.
like we are capable of being
Absolutely.
far more than stepping in far more than we've ever even possibly imagined. But we build up these belief systems as children. These belief systems get repurposed. We project them out onto others. We don't want to feel them. And I see it with my 5-year-old, right?
Mm.
He was a 3-year-old in a class with a 6-year-old in a Montessori program. And the bigger kid was bullying him at 3 years old. And so what did he learn at 3 years old? Big kids are cool. Little kids are not cool. Okay, right? So
Yeah.
I see in him that story at such a really ripe age of, I need to be like the big kids. I don't want to be like the little kids. And so the question isn't so much about what's going to happen to us, but it's how do we hold the space for that transformation when we're in that youthful place.
I love
And
that.
or how do we hold the space for that transformation for the youthful places within us as adults that need our healing and attention now?
How do we love on, in my book, Fierce Love, how do we love on the little person inside us?
That's it.
That's our job.
The whole thing.
Our job is to love on that 3-year-old.
That's
to
right.
love on that 5-year-old who got called the N-word in kindergarten.
That's right.
That's my story. To love
Or
on
the girl got called the K word in
your
school.
situation,
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
girl who was like the most flat-chested 21-year-old on the planet.
Right.
That was also my story. All
Right.
those ways where no matter our gender, no matter our sexuality, no matter our religion, sadly, as much as humans are capable of love, we're also, when we're living out of fear, able to be mean to each other and
Right.
and to stick into each other our own fear. You said it. Project our stuff onto someone. They take it in. Look at the transaction, right? They take in their...
They don't want to feel it. They
and-
project it
and
out.
then they get it back. And suddenly you're in this
Judgment cycle.
Absolutely. That leads to...
That was
harm.
the thing I saw with my son. It's I kept seeing him be pretty not nice to like any kid that was like a little bit more vulnerable or a kid that was younger and just being mean, like
Mm-hmm.
mean. And so you want to go into that place of like, why is my kid mean? Or you can't do that. Or, and then that's just reinforcing the bad kid, right?
Right.
And so I started to really dig into my work as it related to my child. And I was looking at it and I said, oh my God, he learned
Yeah.
that the big kids are meant to be mean to the little kids.
Yes.
That is a horrific feeling inside of him.
Yeah.
He seeks out the vulnerable children, little or vulnerable, and is
So he
mean
can
to
get that
them,
out.
projecting out onto them the
Right.
feelings he doesn't want to feel within himself, but also to see that he's not alone in those feelings.
Exactly. Exactly. And all that you just did right there is very, very sophisticated psychology, right?
Mhm.
This, a psychologist would say, your son took in the object that he was not good enough, that he was not strong enough because he was little. That gets inside him. He sticks it back into another child so he can get rid of it, right?
We project out what we don't want to
Absolutely.
feel within. Yeah.
And that's happening not just with 3-years-olds, but with 40-year-olds.
It's
and
happening with
80-year-olds.
80-year-olds,
Yeah.
90-year-olds. It's happening. I mean, it is the root cause of war.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Totally. And it gets back to the top of our talk, Gabby, where we could say hope amplifies hope,
Mhm.
or we could say hope also seeks an object that's like itself.
That's right.
And that's where we get to how you draw it. I'm hopeful. I'm looking for hope. I'm looking for hope in a community to reinforce my hope, and it magnifies my hope. When we share our stories, that's a really beautiful way, I think, of sticking into each other, giving to each other the beautiful
Recognizing each
story.
other and
Right.
ourselves.
I
Yeah.
see you, right?
Yeah.
This Ubuntu thing, I am who I am because you are who you are. When the Zulu people, that's where it comes from, they greet each other, they say, I see you.
Yeah.
And the other one says, I exist.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the way we recognize what is good and beautiful and loving, and also recognize what is sad and broken and the shards of that. To give each other space to feel that is to give each other space for that to change.
Yeah. You just actually gave me something to boil this down and simplify this, because that is my gift and that is what I do here, is to really look at it from this perspective. So we've got, someone might be listening and be like, okay, well, Gabby and Jacqui have done a lot of spiritual work. They've devoted their lives and their careers and their future for the rest of our lives will be 99 years old doing this work.
That's right.
And so that's easy for them to have that connection to God and to feel that connection to others and to have that. And we've done so much personal growth and development. But for someone who's just new to this and they're just sort of like, well, I like the idea that there's God within me, but I just hate my mother-in-law, or I am so angry at the politicians, or I'm so outraged. The thing that just sort of struck me was that by leaning even slightly into the part of us, that self within us, the God within us, that has even the slightest connection to compassion, or the slightest connection to hope,
Right.
or the slightest even just calmness listening to this conversation, and to just give a little focus towards that energy, even slightly, that begins to, light begets light, right? Hope begets hope. That starts to open up. Because here's the truth. Anyone listening still to this end of this audio right now, they're here because they recognize the God within us as themselves.
Yes. That's
it.
them seeking that, right? Exactly.
They recognize it in themselves. Jack, I just have to go on the record saying that you in this lifetime for me will go with me as one of the more cherished humans I've had the privilege of walking this life with.
Oh.
And even though we haven't hung out a lot and we're only going to hang out a lot more,
you're
a soul that I am proud to be close to. And I'm just so proud to know you and everything that you create and the work that you do and the love that you bring. And I'm just really emotional to say this because your devotion is so real.
Oh,
and I love you.
I love you too. And, it is emotional to, there's a lot of creation myths that say people get separated and then they find each other again. And I always feel when we connect that we have found each other again, but we reclaim each other. I am so proud. I hope it's okay to say, because I'm a little older, I'm so proud of the way you have found your voice and use your voice in such impactful and powerful ways to help people to find a path to their best selves so we can all be better together. I'm so grateful to you and your work. And I love you too.
I love you. Well, we're on mission together.
Yeah, we are. Let's do this thing. We can
Now
do
you're
it.
messing up my makeup. I love you. Thank you.
I love you. Thank you so much.
If you like this video and you want to get more Gabby, check out the next one right over here.